Imagine having a business with $0 of US revenue, but you end up having to pay over $100 million in US taxes. This is the stuff of nightmares, and I'm gonna share the horror story of how choosing the wrong structure, an LLC versus a C Corp, can cost you millions. Hey, I'm Arjun, CEO and founder of doola.com, a venture-backed tech startup here in New York City that's raised over $13 million. But today's story isn't exactly about doula. It's about an entrepreneur who faced the stuff of nightmares, where they had $0 of revenue in the US, but upon a successful exit, had to pay over $100 million in taxes in the US. And that's all because of a mistake they made at time of formation where they formed the wrong entity. My goal is to make sure that you don't make the same irreversible mistake. Jeff Bezos calls these type 1 decisions, where it's a one-way door. Once you go through, there's no coming back. So the only way to avoid these mistakes is from knowledge. That's what I want to share today so you can avoid these mistakes. Let's jump into the story. I'm going to make sure you get this right. Brian Ricarth was a founder in Latin America, and he started by creating an LLC in California. Now you might be wondering why California? This was recommended by a local accountant. And it sounds like good advice. California is the land of tech where lots of companies are started. Unfortunately, this law firm also did not have much experience with venture capital. The law firm actually advised him to create a Delaware C Corp. Fast forward some time, Brian realized that even though his business had done no business in the US, they had no US operations, he would still be required to pay US taxes. Specifically, he would be required to pay US taxes upon an exit. At this point, because Ryan had actually raised money from venture capitalists, restructuring was prohibitive. Fast forward even more, after a merger, Brian actually ended up selling the business. He got to an exit. That is the dream for any founder. Hooray! Or was it hooray? Brian not only had to pay millions to lawyers and accountants to get the job done, but once the transaction was complete, he found out that he owed over $100 million in taxes to the US government. That is despite having $0 of revenue generated in the US. So the $1 million question here, or the $100 million question, is why did Brian owe that much in taxes despite having no revenue in the US? Not only did he have no revenue, he had no clients or no operations. Why did he still have this tax bill? This is the answer. If you start a Delaware C Corp in the US, like the Hotel California, you can check in, but you can never leave. Delaware C Corps pay a corporate tax on profits. In Brian's case, the local acquirer wanted to acquire the operating companies. The companies were Brazilian entities owned by the Delaware C Corp. Therefore, the money from the purchase flowed back to the C Corp, counting as profit. US profit equals pay US taxes. And in this case, it was paying a lot of US taxes. If you're like me, even just hearing this story makes me queasy. It truly is the stuff of nightmares. No clients, no operations in the US, and still having this 9-figure US tax bill. And here's the thing. There are many Latin American companies who have gone through this exact nightmare scenario because of a lack of knowledge up front. No clients in the US, no operations in the US, no revenue in the US, but still getting footed with a US tax bill. And then you either have to pay a massive tax bill or you pay lots of money after the fact to fix what you should have gotten correct up front. So here's the $100 million question again, is how do you actually avoid this? Now I want to share this incredible graphic. This is a graphic that walks through, and again, I'm not a CPA, but I want to refer to this. You should chat with the CPA. This incredible graphic that walks through a decision tree of what a Latin American founder can evaluate and do. In this flowchart, you can actually see and go through where you stand, and this is a recommendation from Magma Partners on what you should do up front. Again, the goal here is to avoid a situation where you form the wrong type of entity, and despite your operations, at an exit, you end up having this massive tax bill. The learning I have here is even if you start a Delaware C Corp, it can be very hard to restructure or too prohibitive to restructure in the future. Therefore, the recommendation in this case is Latin American startups should consider starting with a Delaware LLC or a US LLC, and maybe in the future convert to a Delaware C Corp. There's one other post here I want to share from Nathan Lustig. We'll include the link below as well. And this is a post on why US VCs don't use LLCs, but Latin American startups should consider them. You can check that out down below too. I want to give a massive thank you to Brian Ricarth. Sharing a story like this cannot be easy. Honestly, he might have felt embarrassed or it's a massive blemish or pain, but I really appreciate Brian sharing this so other founders don't go through the same pain point. Brian, seriously, huge thank you. So with that in mind, for anyone listening, I want to make sure that founders don't go through this journey. At Doola, we have licensed tax professionals on our team who you can chat with to walk through your situation. You can click down below and schedule a demo with someone on the human team who can walk you through exactly what is best for your business. Seriously, whether you have a business or you're looking to start, I want to make sure that you are set up for success on your journey. That is a wrap. If you yourself are scaling a business from Latin America or anywhere else in the world, this is why Doola exists. So you can talk to our licensed tax professionals, so we can handle your back office, so you can focus on what you do best and eventually get to an exit like Brian without doing the unsexy yet critical required back office. If you found value in this video, please like, subscribe, turn on notifications. I put out content like this on the regular. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.